Welcome to Ask Diz. I'm Diz, and this is the show where I answer your most pressing running questions. So without any further ado, let's get after it. Today's question comes from Greg, and Greg asks, when I start my run, which is typically on the treadmill, I start out at a fairly decent pace to get my heart rate up and then back down the pace to keep my heart rate at 135 beats per minute. Is this an effective way to do my easy runs, or would I be better served to start my run slower and go longer without getting my heart rate at its upper limit? Or does it really even matter if I stay below my heart rate limit for the entire run? Greg, that's a great question. And when it comes to heart rate training, whatever style of heart rate training that you're following, whether it's more of an 80-20 style, whether it's more of a Maffetone style, whether it's using the various zones, the same principles pretty much apply across all the different flavors of heart rate training. So that's why this is such a great question, because even though you're more focused on 80-20 running, when it comes to running easy, which is something that so many runners don't focus on as much as they should, and always try to push that upper level of what is classified as easy, really it doesn't matter. As long as you're in, as long as it's more intense than like a walk, as long as you're running, you're working a little bit, you don't have to get to the upper limit of your easy zone in order to see benefits from it. In fact, anywhere in that range, anywhere kind of zone 1, zone 2, anything below your 180 minus your age, or anything below whatever you've classified and hopefully done some due diligence to really nail in. Anytime you get below that maximum level of easy, you're seeing the benefits that we want to get. You're getting some of that. You're helping to build that muscle memory by continuing to run and going through the running motion, step after step, mile after mile. So you're nailing that down. You're working your running muscles. You're avoiding as intense, the intense amount of wear and tear that running harder brings about. So, you're improving your aerobic base, which is maybe the most important benefit of running easy anyway. Now, is there more of a benefit? Are you going to improve your aerobic base more by getting right up to that limit? Maybe infinitesimal, but it's not enough to make that a huge priority. And it's certainly not enough to really risk getting right to that limit, maybe going a bit too far and starting to bleed into that zone of, well, it's not really easy anymore, but it's certainly still not hard. So what I recommend is to not worry about trying to get right up to your maximum aerobic limit, or your, whatever your upper range of your zone 2, your upper range of your easy level. There's no reason to rush up to that point. What I find for myself is that when I do start to get up to that upper level of my aerobic, kind of where I cut off my easy runs, my upper range of my heart rate, once I get up to that point, it becomes harder and harder to stay below it. So if I start to push just a little bit too much, now it climbs up, and getting it back down is tough. Whereas if I kind of stay in that 5 to 15 beats kind of below my limit, my upper max in terms of easy runs, I can more or less stay there all day. Now, at some point, if I run long enough, it gets hot enough, things like that, it will start to creep up. But for an easy run, for anything short of 6, 8, 10 miles, if I stay, for me, my upper limit is like a 141. If I stay in that 125 to 135 range, I can pretty much go there all day. So I'm wondering, Greg, if when you ramp up pretty hot to get to that 135 right at the beginning of your run, I'm kind of wondering if maybe you struggle to stay there, or if you really have to dial it way back because you've pushed so hard. Even though you haven't pushed outside of your aerobic zone, even though you haven't pushed outside the realm of easy, you still had to go pretty hot to get to that point. And I'm wondering if maybe you have a hard time keeping it there. Whereas if you settled in around 130, 128, something like that, you could probably stay there and cruise pretty easy and not have to worry about constantly adjusting the treadmill, or if you're outside, adjusting your pace to try to stay where you need to be. So, does it matter? Is one right and one wrong as far as starting slower, starting easier, and gradually building up and just kind of letting it ride anywhere in that easy range versus trying to get right up to the limit of easy and staying there? I really don't think it matters that much. Again, you'll find different exercise physiologists that are going to say, yes, one is a little bit better than the other. Maffetone pretty much says that anywhere within 10 or 15, which is kind of what I've been saying too. And Maffetone's kind of the guy I tend to get most of my information from about this stuff. As long as you're within that 10 or 15 beats of your maximum range, you're still getting a lot of benefit. And even if you're farther below that, you're still getting most of the benefit. You're still getting plenty of benefit. Again, not that I do everything right every time, but when I start out, I'm usually like below 100 for the first quarter of a mile or so. Typically that happens because I'm running first thing in the morning. I haven't really fully woken up yet, so I'm still kind of, like the body is still getting going. But, the first quarter of a mile, I'm at 80 to 90 beats per minute. For the rest of the first mile, I'm between 100 and maybe 115. And then somewhere after I've gotten my warm-up in, body's starting to feel good, starting to finally feel awake, that's when I'll settle in at, 120, 125, 130, maybe 135 if I'm feeling a little crazy that day, and just kind of try to hang out there for 3, 4, 5, 6 miles, whatever is on tap for today. So to answer your question, does it really matter? No. When it comes to easy, what matters is that it's easy. So if you've got 135 as your limit, stay below it. You're not going to get enough of a benefit to make it worth it to go right up to 135 as if you stay at 130 or even 125. So find a comfortable pace, stay there, and if you're on the treadmill, God help you, my friend. But find a spot, settle in, and cruise. So hopefully that helps, Greg. Hopefully that makes sense. And Greg, if you have further questions, obviously let me know. Would love to answer them for you on a future episode of Ask Diz. You already know the drill, Greg, but for everybody else listening and watching, checking out the show for the first time, if you have a running question that I can answer for you, please send it to me, askdiz@dizruns.com. The email address should be somewhere on the screen. It's certainly down below in the description of this video as well. Ideally, I know it's asking a bit much, but ideally you'll take out your phone, send a voice memo asking your question audibly so I can plug that into the video as well instead of me having to read the question. But if you don't want to do that, no worries. Type it out via email. Send it to askdiz@dizruns.com, and I'll make sure that it gets answered soon. And if it's something that I can answer real quickly back to you, I'll fill you in and then maybe expound on it a little bit on a future episode. So that is it for today's video. Hope that was helpful. Hope that was useful. If it was, hit the share button. And we will see you next time on the next episode. See ya.